Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And a number of people asked me what I think about Bugenhagen's recent 265 overhead press. And I'm occasionally going to get a few people who come in and say, Jason, why do you worry about what these other people are doing? Well, because this is kind of my job. It's kind of my job at this point. I do review what other lifters are doing and saying here in the online fitness community and discuss it in detail. And when people say, well, why don't you worry about yourself? Well, I do. I actually upload every single workout that I do. Every workout that I do is done with calibrated plates and it's uploaded for you guys. Also, what people need to keep in mind, believe it or not, I worry about my own training a hell of a lot more than this stuff going on. Every single heavy lift that I do is spreadsheeted. I actually have a spreadsheet with dates, weights, everything for every heavy lift I'm currently doing. Right? I actually have an Excel spreadsheet for it. Pretty big one at this point. And so I worry about it a lot. Also, if you guys have noticed, I've been uploading slow motion footage of my own squats and benches and deadlifts and other stuff for you guys to see. They're being put into videos. So let me make this clear. If I'm uploading HD slow motion versions of my videos, I can assure you I watched them myself. And I am very critical of my own lifting. I am extremely critical of my own lifting, more so than I am of other people. So let's come over and flip in Bugenhagen's video. All right, I'm going to approach this pretty objectively, and the reason I'm going to do that is I'm trying to be fair to people in general with this stuff. And I actually am favorable towards Boogs, and people need to remember that. So I tend to be a little bit more biased because some people will say, well, Jason, how come when Boogs does something like this, you're going to be nicer about it than when Strap-on Dusted does something like this? It's like, well, yeah, there is a personal bias there. Like, I'm a human being, guys. I'm a human being. I just find Boogs to be a more likable person. I guess the other thing for it, too, is that Boogs does stuff like this more as a form of showmanship, and that's what people need to understand, the difference between the purpose of different people's channels. And what do I mean there? This isn't his livelihood. Boogs doesn't have a big channel. He doesn't get millions and millions and millions of views. It's not his income source. He's not selling ebooks for $50 based upon what he's doing in his videos. He has another entertainment type job. He's a wrestler. He's in the WWE and all of that. So he's got a totally separate thing. For him, this is just showmanship and showing off various odd lifts. And I'm still going to be critical of that if we're going to call it an overhead press, right? I'm going to be critical of that because it's not, and it's not an equivalency. It's still strong as hell, though. Still impressive. I mean, Boogs is a strong athlete. Boogs is a fantastic athlete, right? Let's just give him credit where credit's due. The difference is that, when you see Alex do some of this stuff, Alex is doing even, in some cases, worse, although this is, this would be the equivalent of using a high trap bar deadlift and calling it a deadlift, which I've called Alex out on. So the point is, Alex is using this as his sole means of making money, and that's fine. I mean, my YouTube is pretty profitable, so I get it. And then selling ebooks based upon his goofball, silly, fake cheat lifts, right? And that's the difference here. A little bit of a difference, whereas we know this is done purely for entertainment purposes. This is not for financial gain. It's not to get money out of people or anything else. So there is a difference there. But principally, it's kind of the same. So we watched this video, and if someone were to say, hey, does that mean that he could actually overhead press, what we call an overhead press, a standing press, or the press with a barbell? Could he do that with 265? Not a chance in hell. Not based upon what I just saw there. No way, not even possible. Does that mean that he's still strong on overhead pressing? Hell yeah, he is. Hell yeah, he is. He's just as strong as me, if not stronger, on the overhead press, right? I have zero doubt in my mind that Boogs could at least equal or surpass me on the overhead press, right? So we'll get that out of the way, because the most you've seen me do recently, guys, is 225. All right, that's the most you've seen me do. I bet he can do at least that. I'd be willing to bet, even done under a strict press condition, I bet you he could beat me by, I bet, 10 pounds. And people say, well, that's not a lot. Well, on the overhead press, a 10-pound beating somebody is a hell of a lot. So let's go over into what it is that he did there and why it's not really a press. Well, number one, if you guys watched when he got up under the bar, what happened? He got under the bar and he used a leg drive directly out of the pins. Okay? He got underneath that football bar with a really serious layback, which you have to do with the football bar. And I'm going to argue that because of the way you pronate the hands and everything, it's easier to get in tight and get a layback. That's going to give you a slight advantage. I would argue that with that particular bar, you're actually going to have a little bit of advantage doing the layback press on it. You're forced to do it, but it's going to be a little bit more natural of a position. It's going to be a hair easier, I think, to learn. That part's tit for tat. That part's really tit for tat. But it is a layback, driving out of the pins, push press, partial. Okay, and people need to understand that difference. Because that's why I slowed it down to slow motion, so you guys can kind of see what he's doing. He is walking up to the pins and squatting down and doing a push press right out of the pins. Also, it is not in contact with the chest. It's up here. So it is a partial lift. It's a partial lift using the leg drives right off the pins. Right? That would mean that even coming back and doing a push press with a barbell, he would probably not be able to do the 265. If he were to take a barbell, grip it out of the rack and walk it out and then try to do a push press even with that layback, he wouldn't be able to do that 265 he just pulled off. Wouldn't be able to do it. And that's a difference there. So people do need to understand it's not the equivalent. Now, just because we say that an exercise that, hey, that's not really the same thing as the press, is like saying, hey, someone's high handle trap bar deadlift isn't the same thing as a deadlift. But if somebody does 800 pounds on a high handle trap bar, by all means, that's pretty damn strong, right? And I think Boogs has done that. I think he's done 800 plus on it. That's pretty damn strong. No one's going to say that's not strong. I'm not going to say that's not strong. It is. But it's not an 800-pound deadlift, right? That's closer to being a 650 on the deadlift, which is still, it's strong. No one's going to call a 650 or a 600 deadlift weak. No reasonable person is not going to say that's not impressive. So we come over to the point, though, a lift like that, does that mean that he could even push press with a normal barbell, walking it out of the rack, like what we even call a push press? Could he probably do 265 based on that? Probably not. I'm going to lean in the direction of no. But what do we get over to with what he did? What I thought was the more impressive part was, even though he had all that momentum out of the bottom, when it slowed near the top, he was still able to lock it. He was still able to lock it. And that was the part of it that was impressive to me. Right? And people need to understand that just because you can lock a weight later after you had other factors that give you a leverage out of the bottom is not the same as being able to lock it normally, because you didn't have to use all your energy up getting it started. But still, I was impressed by the fact that he was able to lock it at the top after the bar slowed. All right, that is actually indicative of more than just a technique and a little bit of a showmanship lift. I think that did kind of show a real display of strength up there. So, with that being said, when we analyze kind of what he did there, am I going to say it's not strong? Hell no, it's strong. Hell no, it's strong. Boogs is a strong dude. He's a strong, athletic guy, right? Everyone knows that. You watch him, you can tell that. But if people were to ask me, hey, is that the same as if he had done something like a 250 plus press? No, that's not even equal to it. A person who did that probably still couldn't press 250. Okay, not the same thing. And it's sure not a 265 overhead press. So we're going to talk about, are we going to call something a lift? Are we going to count it as carrying over to the same as a lift? No, that's smoke and mirrors in regard to that. But it's still a legit feat of strength. It looks like a fun lift. I'm sure he had a good time doing it, and he likes showing off, and that's what Boogs does, and he's good at it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.